Imagine you are finishing a client presentation, a college assignment, or some code at midnight. You are just about to send one last prompt, and the AI says that you have reached your limit. I know how it feels. So, what should you do now? Should you upgrade? No. Should you open a new chat? No. Then, first, read the warning. If it shows a reset time, it's usually an account or a model limit. And if it says the conversation too long, it's a context problem. Two different problems and two different solutions. A new chat can help only with the context problem. It will not reset your account limit. In the next 5 minutes, I'll show you how to identify the limit and how to stop wasting the capacity you already pay for. Hi, my name is Dev, and you are welcome to my channel Talent Co-Pilot, where we talk about practical AI, data, and business. So let's start. First, let us understand what the AI is actually processing. See, at the app level, you may see a message limit, maybe 20 messages, maybe 50 messages, or maybe the platform simply tells you that a particular model is unavailable for some time. But behind the screen, the AI is reading and generating something called tokens. Now, what is a token? A token is a small piece of text. It could be a complete word, it could be a part of a word also. It could be even a punctuation or a symbol. In other words, one token is roughly three quarters of a word. But don't take that as a fixed formula. Code, numbers, spatial characters, and different languages can be broken into tokens differently. The important point here is every time you send a prompt, the AI reads tokens. And when it gives you an answer, it generates more tokens. So both sides matter. Your input consumes processing and the output also consumes processing. Now here is the part most people miss. Suppose you type, make it shorter. That's only three words. So it should be a very small request, right? Not necessarily. Because what does your it mean? To understand that one sentence, AI may also need the article you shared earlier, the previous version it created, your instructions, and the changes you requested after that. So the visible prompt may be short, but the actual request can be much, much larger. A fresh conversation usually carries very little history, but in a long conversation, every new request may carry a large amount of previous context with it. That is why one long, unfocused chat can consume much more capacity than several short and focused chats. A short message does not always mean a small request. Now, where does this all information sit? They sit inside something called a context window. You can think of the context window as the AI's working space. It is the amount of information the model can consider while preparing its answer. And every model has a different context window size. Some model can handle a relatively small conversation and others can handle very long documents, large code bases or hundreds of pages of information. Now, a large context window sounds better, right? And yes, sometimes it is. But it does not mean you should fill the complete window every time. Do you know why? Because the more context you carry, the more information the model may need to process before answering your latest question. Suppose your chat contains 50 previous messages, 3 uploaded documents, multiple versions of the same draft, and several ideas you rejected 2 hours ago. The model may still have to work through a large part of that information to understand your next instruction. Now, what happens when the context window becomes full? That depends on the tool. Some tools may remove the oldest part of the conversation and some may summarize the earlier messages automatically. Some may stop and tell you that the conversation is too long. And sometimes you may notice the problem before receiving the warning. The AI may forget an instruction you gave earlier and keep hallucinating. It may contradict a decision you already made, or it may ask you for the information that you already shared. These can be signs that the conversation has become too large or too messy. So understand the difference very clearly. Your account limit controls how much access you do have to a model or a service. Your context window controls how much information the model can work with inside one request or conversation. They are related to AI usage, but they are not the same problem. Now let us address the practical question. How do you keep a session light? See, there are three main things you need to control. First is your files, second is your images, and third is the model you select. Let's start with files. Suppose you have a 100-page PDF, but the information you need is available on 5 pages. Should you upload the complete PDF? Not necessarily. Start with the 5 relevant pages. Why make the AI process 95 pages that have nothing to do with your question? And the file format also matters. See, clean text is usually easier to process for AI. For example, a plain text file or a markdown file or a text pasted directly into the chat. But heavily formatted PDF may contain multiple columns, headers, footers, images, tables, and complicated layouts. A spreadsheet contains rows, columns, formulas, multiple sheets, and relationship between cells. And a scanned document may need visual processing before AI can even understand the text. So if you only need the written context, extract the text and share that. But if the formatting itself is important, such as a table, diagram, invoice, or page layout, then keep the necessary structure. The goal here is not to remove useful information. The goal here is to remove the information that the task does not need. The same logic applies to code. Suppose one function is giving you an error. Do you need to upload the complete repo? Usually no. Start with the exact error message, the relevant function, and what you expected to happen and what actually happened, and the nearby code that the function depends on. If the AI needs more information, it can always ask you, right? You don't have to dump the complete project into the first prompt. Now let us talk about images. Images can require a surprise amount of processing. Sometimes using an image is completely justified. For example, a chart that AI needs to interpret, a design it needs to review, an interface problem it needs to see, or a screenshot where visual layout is important. But suppose the screenshot contains only an error message and you can copy that error as text and then paste the text. The AI does not need to analyze an entire screenshot just to read one sentence. So use an image when the visual information is the point, not simply because uploading a screenshot is convenient. And now the biggest lever, the model you choose. Tell me something. Do you need the most powerful model like Fable 5 or GPT 5.6 Soul for a grammar correction? Absolutely no. Do you need it to format a list? Probably not. Do you need it to rewrite a short email or to create 5 headline variation? Again, probably not. A lighter and faster model can handle many routine tasks. Basic rewriting, simple summaries, formatting, information extraction, classification, and straightforward questions. Save the stronger model for the work that genuinely requires deeper reasoning. For example, complex debugging, detailed analysis, difficult planning, comparing conflicting information, or making an important strategic decision. The strongest models are often the ones with stricter usage limit. So don't spend that capacity on a work lighter model can complete easily. The rule is simple. Give the AI minimum useful information and use the minimum required model. Now suppose your convention contains useful information but it has become very long. What should you do? Some AI tools like Codex and Claude provide a feature called compact. Other tools may call it summarize, or they may allow you to create a handoff for a new conversation. See, here basic idea is same. The AI reads the long conversation and converts it into a shorter summary. Then you continue with the summary instead of carrying the complete history. Sounds perfect, right? But it is not always. Because compacting also has a cost. First, the model has to read the conversation and summarize it. So the compacting process itself can consume tokens or processing capacity. Second, a summary is never identical to the original conversation. It may preserve the main objective, it may preserve the final decisions, but smaller details can disappear. The exact wording may change. A small constraint may be missed, or a decision that looked unimportant at the time may not appear in the summary. So, when should you compact? When one phase of work is complete. Let's take an example. See, your research is complete and now you are ready to write. Your brainstorming is complete and now you are ready to create the final plan. Or your planning is complete and now you are ready to execute. At these points, you normally need the conclusions, not every conversation that helped you to reach those conclusions. But when should you avoid compacting? When you are in middle of a delicate work. Maybe you are debugging a difficult issue. Maybe you are negotiating the exact wording of a contract clause. Maybe you are working with precise numbers. Or maybe several decisions depend on one another. In those cases, losing even a small detail could create a bigger problem. So sometimes carrying the full conversation is worth the extra weight. Here's the simple route: compact when you need direction, and keep the full thread when you need precision. And for important work, use a two-part handoff. First, create a short summary containing objective, final decisions, constraints, unresolved questions, and the next action. Then carry forward the exact material that must not change. That could be a code block, a table, a list of figures, or approved wording. The summary gives you continuity, the source material protects the details. Now, here is something most people don't notice. A new chart may look empty, but it may not be actually be empty. Depending on the tool, it may already include custom instructions, saved memory, project files, or workspace information. This can be useful, but what if those files are outdated? What if your instructions are repeated? What if the same project contains office work, college notes, personal writing, and coding files? Then the AI may be carrying information that has nothing to do with your current task. So once in a while, clean it. Remove files that you no longer use. See, we are living in an era of generational abundance. We can generate more. So this creates the problem of irrelevance and slope. Your AI will also generate irrelevant files, outdated files, and a lot of slope. You need to keep recycling them as per your current scenario. See, keep your permanent instructions short and create separate projects for separate type of works. A new chat works better when the room around it is also clean. Now let me ask you something. Do you actually know how much AI usage you have left right now? Most people don't. They keep working, they keep sending the prompts, and then suddenly you have reached your limit. But many platforms now provide some kind of usage information. It may be inside your settings, your plan or billing page, and there will be a usage dashboard. The both are same in Codex as well as in Claude. And both the AI tools, Codex or Claude, will even show how much of the current context window a conversation is using. Why is it useful? Because once you can see your usage, you can start noticing pattern. Maybe long coding session consumes most. Maybe one specific model reaches its limit much faster. Maybe large document analysis tasks are the main reason. Or maybe you hit the wall only when you keep one conversation running for several hours. Without checking, you are only guessing. So take a few minutes and find where your usage information is located in the tool you use most, whether it is Claude or Codex. You don't need to check it after every prompt. That won't be necessary. Just check it before a heavy session, during a long session, or when you notice that a particular workflow repeatedly causes problems. Because once you know what is consuming your allowance, you can change the workflow before the limit stops you. And now the final part, and this is the one which we easily miss. See, you open a new chat, the screen is blank, so you assume the conversation is starting from zero. But is it? Not always. Depending on the tool and your settings, your new conversation may already include background information. For example, custom instructions, saved memory, project level instructions, reference file, workspace rule, or the context automatically added by the tool. You may not see all these inside the chat, but the AI may still receive some of it even before answering your first prompt. Now, this is not automatically a bad thing. In fact, it can be very useful. Maybe you want the AI to remember your perfect writing style. Maybe you have a project containing important business documents, or maybe you use the same technical instructions in every coding session. This saves a lot of time. But the problem begins when the background context becomes unnecessary. Suppose your project contains 10 large reference files, but the current task needs only one of them. Or suppose you have old documents that are no longer accurate, or your custom instructions repeat the same preference in four different ways. Now, your fresh chat may already be carrying information it does not need, and depending on how the platform handles the project context, that information may add to the context or processing required in each conversation. So, once in a while, audit your setup. Remove files you no longer read, replace outdated documents, keep permanent instructions short and clear, and separate unrelated work into different projects or workspaces. Your client work, college notes, personal writing, and coding projects does not need to sit inside the same environment. Before starting an important session, ask what is already in the room, because a blank chat is truly light only when the space around it is clean. So hitting a limit does not always mean you need a bigger plan. Sometimes you are genuinely out of capacity, but most of the times the real problem is how the capacity is being used. The solution is not a secret hack, it's simply a cleaner workflow. Understand what the warning means, know what AI is processing, and spend your premium capacity only where it creates real value. If you found this video useful, hit the like button and subscribe to Talent Copilot. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.